Return of the Giants from the Hollow Earth, Terra Infinita, and the Inner World. New book available. You will find the links below.
And so the descent began. We used an access point that appears on no map beneath an abandoned station. A damp, dark passage, no signal, no markers. We walked for hours between stone walls and absolute silence, while the surface grew farther and farther away. I found some paintings on the wall, symbols and words written in what seemed to be ancient Futhark. At a certain point, the darkness was replaced by a faint bluish glow with no visible source. It was as if the walls themselves were breathing an ancient energy. There, beneath the known continents, where no one hears you, where the system's networks do not reach, my true journey began. Nos confunden. We descended to depths I didn't even know could exist. We passed through several levels and everything was very strange. There was so much silence it was almost deafening. My ears kept popping, and I tried to focus on the path more than on what was happening to my body, though a lot was happening inside me as well, including a sickening sense of nausea and dizziness. There's a moment somewhere between the surface and the underworld when everything you've learned starts to sound like a foreign language. Thoughts don't connect the same way. They hang there, floating, as if some kind of signal or link were being lost in the deep. The tunnels we traveled could never have been the work of modern engineering. They had none of the marks or patterns of a human dig with present-day machines. These routes were very organic, ancient, opened with a technology I'd never seen, without the brutality of explosives that are usually used, nor the telltale fractures of current machinery that cracks the ground and leaves obvious scars. They looked sculpted with surgical precision by something that seemed to open matter from within. "We're on Tartarian routes," my companion said. "Many of them were sealed after the last reset, but some still remain, so we'll use the ones that haven't been contaminated." Nos confunden. Along the way we found inscriptions carved into the walls, letters that reminded me of what I once saw as Sanskrit, but with patterns far too complex to reproduce here by example. The symbols even seemed to move and dance on the sealed wall itself. They didn't look chiseled, and they gave off a blue light. We passed through chambers as large as cathedrals where I saw structures suspended without any anchors, or at least I couldn't find any around them, as if they were floating. A sound could be heard in the distance. I couldn't quite describe it. It was like a soft melody. Down there, time flows in a very strange way. You can feel it in the air, almost as something tangible. I suppose because of the dense atmosphere. You can walk 10 minutes and feel hours have passed, or lose yourself in a passage for a second that turns into an eternity. It's very odd because there's no real reference, and yet all of it can be sensed. Life itself seems to pause there. It's another kind of reality. I saw beings working. I had no idea what they were doing. They were human, like you or me, but with a seriousness in their gaze rarely seen on the surface. People very busy, but not hurried. Clearly they weren't there for money or duty. Were they in hiding? I wondered. At the same time, my own inner voice had a strange echo that made me lose myself, chasing answers. Nos confunden. Were they resisting down here in some way? Some said they were descendants of the pre-resets. Others were humans from my same cycle, after the year 1728, who had awakened, as my guide called it. There were also human giants, several who stood more than a body taller than the rest, much taller than an ordinary man, strongly hewn features, rough skin, and a strength you could sense even when they were still. Their bodies were so carved and robust, they seemed made of the very wood around us. They didn't speak, nor did it seem they needed to. I think they too followed the same rule I'd been given, the most basic of all: speak as little as possible and don't turn on devices. Even the faintest emission could be detected by custodial radar and Anunnaki tech. Some of the devices used by the custodians can read thermal changes, brain waves, even frequencies of the human body. They're highly complex tools that are also deployed in the modern bases of the Antarctic Circle and in the oceans, capable of triggering quakes or tsunamis the moment they register movement. Any intense emotion could also be a threat. That explains the group's grave composure. Nos confunden. We reached a sharp fork, route tunnel OD2 depth. A guard stepped out from the bark and stopped us with his hand raised. He was a man, though his face bore marks I took to be from exposure to surface sun. He told us movements had been detected in the deeper levels, movements that didn't match anything human. Could be Polonians, he whispered. We've seen them emerge before. It's always the same. They smell like rotten metal and leave scorch marks on the walls. Sadly, whenever we spot those traces, we're never wrong. I didn't dare ask more, but I knew somehow what he meant. I'd read it in reports my guide had given me earlier. They're what folks here call the polonium worms, soft-bodied beings, forms twisted by radiation, born or altered through a mix of genetics and metalloids, stinking of decay. I had long ago read a case in which humans found their nests, and a great battle broke out there until the custodians intervened. Their specialty is sabotage from within. When they surface, they do it with extreme violence and leave few survivors. They've attacked human underground bases and annihilated everything that moved, and they destroy the bases themselves. Deaths rarely present with visible wounds, but rather massive internal burns. The bodies are left switched off, as if their energy had been drained, as if their soul had been torn out. Many insist they're a hybrid creation of Draco, Etamines, and the Custodians. Others say they are an ancient species trapped beneath the lowest levels of the physical world, released after human errors in underground military bases. My guide didn't explain further, so we moved on. Nos confunden. The most unsettling moment came when we reached a junction where a tree rose, the World Tree. A complete tree many meters below ground. Its roots pierced living rock. It seemed to emit its own light, illuminating all the branching paths around it. Its glow appeared to cut off at a fixed point, as if it reached only so far and then vanished. It was life that needed no surface sun. This is what they don't want us to know, my guide told me. There's a living world within the dead world they designed for us. And in that moment, I think I understood something. What's seen on the surface is just a set piece, and we act as unwitting actors. What repeats up there is only programming. Down here, another kind of reality seems to emerge, even if surrounded by darkness. We exchanged no more words. The journey was far from over. I had barely seen anything yet.
YouTube channel Nos Confunden.
Return of the Giants from the Hollow Earth. Terra Infinita in the Inner World. New book available. You will find the links below.